What can only be characterized as vulgar, disgusting, offensive language topped week 7 of testimony in the Karen Reed case.
It's unbelievable.
And these are the people that are supposed to be protecting us? Chief Investigator Michael Proctor certainly had some things to say about Karen Reed. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And we have Yoli Medina with us today. Yoli, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
So, as we dig deeper into this Karen Reed case, it has gotten messier and messier. I did not think things could look worse for the prosecution, but it has gotten a little questionable in my opinion.
Well, yeah, Attorney Medina, I don't know how people are feeling about this on the West Coast, but a lot of people here in New England, at least, are following the Karen Reed trial. It's probably one of the biggest trials I've seen. And as I said in the intro, language that we can only characterize as disgusting and offensive was coming right from the mouth of the chief investigator, Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor. There was questions about whether or not he was even going to go on the stand, but he did go on the stand this week. And prosecuting attorney Adam Lally attempted to take the sting out of what we all knew were going to be some offensive texts that Proctor had shared with friends and other investigators by having Proctor read from the text messages himself. These were text messages that he had sent and received during the investigation of John O'Keefe's murder. In one text, another trooper asked about Karen Reed's physique. And Judge Cannon was having none of Proctor's attempts to just, kind of gloss over it all.
And turning your attention to the next page, 2538, at the top, if you could just read a series of responses from yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Read from those, sir.
Yep, so these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
That's the chief investigator from the Massachusetts State Police on the stand recounting one of many texts about Karen Reed. Any impressions right away?
I've said this before where the police are, everybody doing their job is just a normal person. In this case, this is not the kind of people you want to be putting your security into. I wouldn't even want to be friends with someone that talks like this, uses this language. This is not someone that I would, even as a normal person, even if not considering the situations, it's just gross. He's just weird.
Yeah, and it shows bias. I mean, it kind of dehumanizes, it does dehumanize, especially the later comments that he makes that I'm sure we'll see, but it dehumanizes her, and they're treating her as if she's something below them. And like Lainey said, I wouldn't associate with anybody who talked like that.
And the thing is, you pointed out, and I didn't prompt you. We didn't even talk about this before we started recording because of our lovely technical issues we had today. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned bias. He tried very strongly to defend himself, say these were poorly chosen words. I apologize. I didn't mean to say any of these things. It was unprofessional, but this did not affect the integrity of the investigation. He repeated that kind of a defense all the way through. On cross-examination, defense attorney Alan Jackson pointed out that Proctor had expressed, in Proctor's own words, hatred for co-defense attorney David Yannetti as he texted other officers as he went through Karen Reed's phone and indicated he had not yet found any nude photographs.
You see that, gentleman?
I do, sir.
Is that the photograph that you received?
Yes.
Is that what you referred to on direct examination with Mr. Lally about receiving a photograph from of Mr. Yannetti.
Correct.
And then your response was what?
I hate that man. I truly hate that man.
Actually, your response was, I'm going through his client's phone right now, correct?
Yes, after the picture, sir, yes.
Who's the client?
I was referring to Miss Reed, again, unprofessional language.
I'm asking who you were referring to.
Miss
I know
Reed.
you got an explanation. Who was it that you were referring to? As
Miss Reed.
Karen Reed, the woman sitting to my left.
Yes, sir.
The subject of your investigation as a professional, correct?
Yes, sir.
As an unbiased, objective investigator. The person that you were investigating, you referred to your bosses as correct?
Again, poor language on my part.
Yeah, I'd say it was a little bit more than poor language, but I mean, the jury, by the way, has 10 women on it. There are a total of 17, or there were a total of 17, 12 jurors and 5 alternates. This week, one of the jurors had to leave and an alternate was put into that position. But again, there are 10 women on the jury, and ironically, there are also 10 reporters. It's a very small courtroom, so only 10 reporters are allowed into the courtroom. But from what I've been able to gather from those reporters, the TV people are not allowed to show the jurors. They're protected. But from what I've gleaned from the reporters who were in the room, and multiple reporters said that the jurors just looked shocked, especially the women, but all the jurors. One juror was said that her her jaw dropped open. Another juror, or a couple of jurors, had their hands over their mouths. Another juror slumped over. So the reaction of jurors was, as you could be expected, I would call it outrage.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I was just gonna say that the way he talks, the language he uses, is there's 14-year-olds on Xbox Live that are more sympathetic and more humane than that. It's worse than how you would expect a teenager to talk. I know, sometimes people can say messed up things, but to be talking to this, like, people, is just gross. It paints a bad picture because it's not only painting a bad picture on him, but all the people that he's interacting with in the police force and everything. It's just makes everybody look bad that's involved.
And then this hatred that he said he has for Mr. Yannetti. Now, I'm wondering if he's had to deal with, or if he's been subpoenaed to testify in other cases involving Mr. Yannetti, or if this is the first time. But expressing hatred for the defense attorney also shows some bias on his part. And he has to be impartial when he's investigating these things. And, if you hate somebody, somebody who is defending the defendant, it carries over. I mean, I can't imagine how you could put that aside and try to be impartial. I mean, I suppose it can be done, but based on everything else he said, it doesn't sound like he's partial. I mean, it sounds like he's partial to the police.
And the courts want us all to work together, and sometimes it's hard, but a lot of times defense attorneys, some that I know anyhow, do their best to get along with police officers, get along with, prosecuting attorneys, because, hopefully we all believe that we're going to be around a long time, and what goes around comes around. And so, once you have your witnesses on the stand, of course, it's an adversarial system, and you treat people as though they're the opposing people. But I mean, to personalize it to this extent that there's hatred is just, it goes beyond the pale. I heard some commenters saying, oh, well, this is locker room talk. Well, you know what? I've been going to the gym. I know it doesn't show, but my entire adult life, I've been going to the gym, and I've been a member of the gym I'm at now for 7 years. And I've not heard this type of comment in a locker room. I have not heard this type of comment in a locker room. Yeah, here's stuff in there. Before I went to college, I worked in a warehouse loading and unloading tractor trailers. And yes, I can talk like a warehouse dock worker because I was one. But you know what? This is a whole different level. This is a different level below all of that. This level of disparagement is something else. And by the way, there was no indication that any of the higher ups at the Massachusetts State Police ever reprimanded Proctor for the content of these texts, even though all indications were that some of them were in on these texts. One of them, Lieutenant Brian Tully, took the stand after Proctor and claimed that he had admonished Proctor in, quote, a long conversation. And again, these texts continued as Proctor talked to other law enforcement as he went through the Karen Reed phone.
What did you tell your colleagues that you were looking for as you sat at almost 10 p.m. at night on a Wednesday night, August 17th, 2022, looking through Karen Reed's phone?
I didn't tell them I was looking through anything. They knew I was going through Miss Reed's phone. I provided a inappropriate joke as an update. They knew I was going through location data, text messages, Google searches. But like I had mentioned earlier, I had to stop.
Except Trooper Proctor, none of that really professional sounding stuff ended up in your comments to your bosses, did it?
Again, it was a poor joke.
Is that yes or no?
It did not, no.
It did not.
No,
As
sir.
a matter of fact, what did you write after you talked about going through the, quote, client's phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No nudes so far.
No nudes so far, correct?
Correct.
And you said that to your bosses.
Yes, sir.
There was a colloquy that went on later on. You know, you have to have a search warrant to get a phone, and you also have to specify what it is that you're looking for in the phone. And you know, I think it was just hyperbole that one of the things that the defense attorneys asked was, well, did you put on the search warrant that you were looking for nudes? And of course that wasn't on there, but it's just, you know, he claims he wasn't looking for them and he claims it was a joke, but I don't know. Do you guys believe it?
It's so, I can't even, like how you said, it's just like, was it a joke? Yeah, a joke. It's just like, even the fact that he's sending it to your boss, I can't imagine any job that I'd be texting that to anybody. I can't, like, it's just nasty. It's just weird. It's just weird behavior.
It's
just gross.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's almost like those are his words, so it's almost like, yeah, he was looking for nudes. Because, you know, those are his words. And if you were to make a joke, it would, just in the context of everything else that he said, it's not a joke to me.
And even it's like jokes is just like, you're not going to make a joke of something you're not thinking about either. It's just like that thought didn't come out of nowhere. It's like, you're going to say it's a joke. It's just like, yeah, I'm sure it's a joke.
And I can't imagine joking about something like that in a police, you know, in his capacity as a police officer.
He's a state trooper. He's a state trooper and the lead investigator. He's a state Massachusetts State Police trooper and the lead investigator in this case. And he's investigated some other cases that, you know, now people are starting to scratch their heads and say, if this guy acted like this on this case, what's going to happen with these other cases? And we can talk about those in a minute. But there's more. But wait, there's more. The dialogue while Proctor was leading the investigation the day of John O'Keefe's death continued with even more disparagement. And this is right off the top. This is the same day he was talking like this.
And he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job.
So yeah, we had to bleep that one out. You heard that one before, and you know, this is the day. And here's the point. Not that the guy said all these things, although that's shocking and disrespectful and outrageous. But here's the point. I mean, doesn't this show incredible bias? Doesn't this show incredible unprofessionalism? Doesn't this show that right off the very top, if he's talking like this the very same day that John O'Keefe was found in the snow and then died shortly thereafter at Brockton Hospital. Doesn't this just show, total bias and hatred towards Mr. Yannetti and also for Karen Reed? I mean, doesn't this taint the whole investigation? I'm sorry.
From the jury's perspective, I wouldn't be able to trust any of these people. I wouldn't be able to trust any organization in which people are texting their boss like, LOL, can't find nudes. It just, like I was like, this doesn't even seem real. This seems worse than like high school drama at this point, which in a situation that's this serious, it does make it seem like they're going after her almost, where it's just like, whether it was an accident, no matter what happened, like, you're right, there's bias, there seems like there's a lot of malice. And this is just not what anybody should be seeing from the police.
Yeah, and the fact that he said that she's a whack job, he's already portraying her as somebody who is unreliable, who's just crazy, who's he's already made up his mind about her, and certainly that would lead to tunnel vision. I mean, that kind of exhibits tunnel vision, that she's crazy, and and so it's very strange, because these are like notes, that I see these texts as notes that an investigator would be taking about the case. So, I mean, he's discussing this in text. It's just it's unbelievable to me, because it does show as the lead investigator that he thinks she's crazy and that she's not reliable or trustworthy.
Uh-huh.
Well, the thing about that particular comment, it reflects back on the speaker, because let's not forget that she was a college professor, and she also was a stock analyst for one of the big companies. She was a stock analyst and a professor, and a dummy whack job is not doing that. And it shows not only bias and unprofessionalism, but somebody, frankly, that's just not that bright, because what we all know. Isn't it like a truism? I mean, I listen to a guy on the radio who frequently says, never say anything in private that you wouldn't want smeared in the newspaper. And also never do anything in private, or especially on the internet, that you wouldn't do in the middle of a sunny day on Main Street. And I think those are things that everybody this day and age knows, because there are cameras everywhere. There are microphones everywhere. I think we all learned, and tell me I'm wrong, I think we all learned right around in middle school that you don't talk bad about people behind their backs, because there's ways of it coming around to you. You know what I mean? To think that he thought that he could say all of these things to all of these people, some of the recipients and active participants in these texts were other police officers, other law enforcement, some of his superiors. Some of them apparently were his high school friends. I mean, they all went to school in Canton, as they pronounce it, and they were all buddies. And apparently he told some of his Canton buddies that, he was looking for nudes of Karen Reed. And it's just not all that bright.
I definitely agree too, where it's just like, obviously don't talk bad about people and go back to them, but people say things in the height of emotion, but it's different to like accidentally misspeak and your intrusive thoughts win for a second, versus to be typing these thoughts that you're having out, to be able to read it and to think it's appropriate to hit send, and also to not have any regard for like how you appear in your well-manneredness. It's just someone that, obviously, like, we say things we don't mean when we're upset, but this isn't the way that you want someone that's in power behaving if they can't manage their own personal feelings.
So we have one more dive into the testimony, and there was a lot. I mean, Mr. Proctor was on the stand for the better part of 2 days. And these days, are 6-7 hours long, minus the lunch hour. And so, it went on and on and on and on. And believe it or not, the last video we're going to show you dives even lower, if that's possible. Proctor had also testified that he shared with other law enforcement photos of Karen Reed out of the Milton State Police barracks. And when one of the other law enforcement texted and asked him whether Reed was a smoke, he replied, eh. And And then Proctor made some really shocking statements about a digestive system medical condition that Reed has, suggesting incontinency.
Is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your, essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked. That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Yikes. He also used it, whether you can believe it or not, he used some even more vulgar language to suggest that she does something in her pants. And it's just, I don't know. Again, the jurors, from the reporters that I heard and read about, they said that the jurors were just totally shocked at all of this testimony. And I don't know. I saw one very learned fellow who's dean of a law school here in Massachusetts say this is the end of the case, because the jury's not gonna recover from this stuff. And there's more testimony later in the week, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't know. Do you agree that this could be the end of the case?
I think the jury still hasn't recovered from the Stop and Shop bags and Solo cups. There's so much. It's just like every single day, it's like you hear something and you don't think it could possibly get worse, and then for this to pop up, it's like, oh my god! Like I thought it was doomed a long time ago. Not necessarily doomed, but I thought that she was going to be found not guilty a long time ago, and now with this, it's like, oh my god! It's just like I can't even imagine how she's feeling right now, being in the courtroom, being able to look these people in the eyes as they have to read these messages that they said about her. As horrible as this whole experience is, I don't know. I can't imagine how she's feeling, but I imagine there is at least some feeling of satisfaction or validation to know that these people who have been saying horrible things are now just publicly in the public eye like this. This is insane.
And the prosecution called this guy, and they always say, you want to nip the bad stuff head on so that it has less shock value. So you call, if there's something bad about a witness or a case, you try to bring it up as your witness, and you try to bring it up before the opposing side does. But this didn't work.
No, I would agree with you. I agree with both of the things that you just said. That one, you try and take the sting out of anything that's bad. And I've explained it to some other people who've asked me, well, why did the prosecuting attorney bring this stuff up in his case? And I explained that if I'm trying a case and I know there's some very horrible weaknesses in my case that could do damage to me, I try to bring them up in a context that's going to make the judge and or the jury understand it and kind of take the sting out of it, get ahead of it, as they say. But yeah, this I would say definitely backfired. I don't know how you would present this kind of thing. I really don't.
And it comes off like they hate him. It doesn't even come off as trying to take the blowout. It's like, all right, here's this thing, and we're gonna just keep like stabbing into it. It does not. This is
work.
not helpful.
And it doesn't work. I mean, his last name is Proctor, and he's talking like this. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing just reeks. It reeks.
There's even worse. There's even worse. Trust me. One of the things that was even worse was on day 23rd, which was June 13th. Michael Proctor had actually. He has an odd relationship with his sister. He texts her multiple times every single day. His sister's name is Courtney, and he had texted to his sister, Courtney, hopefully she kills herself, referring to Karen Reed. So, I mean, there's more. This went on for 2 days. And Lainey, you said you don't know how Karen Reed feels. God, I don't know how she feels either. I would feel awful to be in her shoes. But by the second day, as Alan Jackson, who we see there, continued to drill this home and home and home, she was actually smiling. She was looking over at him and smiling. And then she was alternately turning back and looking Michael Proctor right in the eyes as he was reading some of these disgusting texts. And it was just, it was interesting to watch because, again, I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know how she was feeling, but this ordeal has been going on for her now for 2.5 years. And to actually hear Proctor reading some of these things, yeah, she was breaking into a smile and looking at Jackson because it's been a long haul for her. And here it is.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. It's obviously one of the worst parts of her life to even be in this situation, the circumstances that led to this, but also if I were in that position to just at least have the world just see like how awful these people have been behind closed doors, there's you can't make people come back, but it at least probably heals some of the pain that she was presumably experienced because she's probably also getting a lot of hate. She was seemingly getting hated on before this. And, this is probably something that's been going on for a long time now. So at least she gets to experience everybody seeing what's happening in the police force because people in power shouldn't be talking about anybody like this. It's everybody here. We don't talk about people like that. Like, it's very immature and it's concerning.
And the I hope she kills herself. Oh my God! If that doesn't show ultimate bias, I don't know what does.
No, I agree 100%. A lot of comments have been out there that how could this kind of thing go on the stand? The Massachusetts State Police have a history. Several years ago, there was an overtime scam and scandal, and some heads rolled over the fact that some state plan. Again, we're not painting with a broad brush, but I'm stating the fact that a few years ago, there was a state police scandal where a number of officers were found phoning up their overtime and getting paid an awful lot of money that they didn't deserve. That's scandal one. Scandal two, several years ago, there was a huge scandal in the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab wherein two actual different people that worked there, one of them was Annie Ducan. She was just simply phoning up the drug tests. She was just phoning them up. And when this came out, a number of drug convictions actually had to be overturned. And there was another woman that worked in the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab out in Western Massachusetts, and it was a sad story that I'm not going to recount here. But if you have any doubt about what I'm saying, Netflix actually did a documentary on this whole Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab scandal. And the issue wasn't that it was a sad thing about a woman that worked in the crime lab was actually doing the drugs. It was that there's no oversight. It was bad enough that this happened with both of these individuals that worked in the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab, but there was no oversight of people, supervisory positions, looking at them, controls, checks and balances, and all that good stuff that goes with fair, competent administration. And again, if you doubt me on that one, Netflix actually did a really interesting series.
I think I did see it. I think I
Yeah.
did see it. Yeah.
So there's a problem with the Massachusetts State Police, and a lot of people say that corruption is endemic in that system. And so with this coming out, and believe me, this is a huge story. All of the New England news TV stations, newspapers, bloggers, there have been a ton of different episodes from all different channels, and all the big ones, all the big ones that I'm not going to name them, but them. They're all two of them are actually a bunch of them are live streaming this trial during the day. And so a lot of people are saying, isn't someone at some level somewhere in Massachusetts saying something? And after 4 days of this, on Thursday, after days of this, the governor of Massachusetts finally, when confronted by a reporter from one of the Boston TV stations, finally came out with this statement. Lainey?
Yeah, so Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey said, "It's completely unprofessional. It does harm, frankly, to the dignity and to the integrity of the work of men and women across the state police and law enforcement. As a former attorney general and as governor, I am completely disgusted by that. I'll also say that this is the subject of a criminal investigation and trial, and therefore it's not appropriate for me to speak more to that at this time," which is really strong words coming from the governor, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's like, what a waste of resources this prosecution is. I mean, is this prosecutor trying to show what corruption, what kind of officers they have? I mean,
That's what it felt like.
What kind of state troopers they have? What kind of law enforcement, buddy system they have? I mean, because that's what it seems like. It seems like this prosecutor is not prosecuting Karen Reed. He's putting on, showing the lack of dignity and lack of just disgusting behavior. That's what he's doing. So I don't know. Is he prosecuting Karen Reed, or is he just showing us how terrible law enforcement can be, or is?
I think you're right. As much as I want to stay out of politics, as much as I want to stay far out of politics, I think these are crocodile tears from the governor of Massachusetts, because if I'm not mistaken, she was attorney general while those two other scandals were brewing, and no one actually took an institutional view of the whole thing and saying, look, we've got to do something. They just took it as this is an isolated incident and it's been taken care of, and let's look the other way and move on with our lives. And so, yes, of course, the standard advice is, it's pending an investigation, so we can't comment. But my feeling is that someone somewhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts should at least send a spokesman out and say, listen, this is a bunch of crap. We're not going to put up with this anymore. We've had enough. And yeah, okay, it's a pending trial and a pending investigation, but we're launching our investigation into this now, because these statements that we've just shown you on video, those are under oath in a Commonwealth courthouse. They're under oath at the Dedham Superior Court, Norfolk County Superior Court in Dedham, under oath. So we already know what's been said and what the facts are. So, I mean, what's the wait? Why are people in leadership positions in Massachusetts squirreling away into their holes and not saying anything? Why aren't they being more upfront about how outrageous and egregious this is? I just don't know. And we don't know. But my feeling is that the jury is going to tell them what they think. We don't know,
I just want them to rest already. I'm tired. Like, enough prosecution, enough.
Well, they came out with some more witnesses later in the week. It wasn't as spectacular. One of actually two DNA, they call them experts, but I really don't know. They actually had two DNA people come out and at great length testify about DNA. And I think a high school biology student would have been just as apt to go on these lengthy descriptions of what is DNA. I mean, come on. But after, they both indicated that the hair that was found on the back of Karen Reed's Lexus SUV was John O'Keefe's. Well, he was her boyfriend. So, I mean, the vehicle had been driven approximately 60 miles after she allegedly hit him until it made its way to the Canton Police Department Sallyport. So A, how did the hair even stick that long? But B, so what? So what if her boyfriend's hair was on the back of her SUV? Maybe it got there because he was unloading groceries. Maybe it got there because he was throwing his gym bag in there and then brushed against the door. I mean, so why there was interminable testimony on one of the days. I think it was day 24 with these DNA people at great length, and that was what that was. And then on day 25, I believe it was, they had another expert, and this was an expert. I hate to call these people experts, but a person came on the stand who reviewed Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, taking a look at that controversy. Remember that Google search, Haas Long to Die in the Snow, which appeared at 2:24 in the morning, the overnight, the night of John O'Keefe's death. This expert testified that it's fully explainable that the search was actually not made at 2:24, but at 6:23 or 6:24 in the morning, explaining that the time forensically on the phone was search activity database and not tab activity database. Now, don't ask me about that because I wasn't this person trying to get this past the jury, but I'm sure that the defense will have their expert. My understanding, and I'm not an expert, but my understanding is if your phone forensically shows that you made a search at 2:24 in the morning, that's when you made the search. I don't know.
I think your phone, if it's a smartphone, an iPhone, or any kind of Android, I'm sure it keeps time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thought with it is I can understand the concept of opening the app and then opening up a separate tab or something. But at the same time, it would just be very specific. You could see the detail of the exact time that the search was done, even if the browser may have been open at a separate time. So I don't know.
I don't know either.
It should be something relatively straightforward, I think.
And then just before we went to record this podcast, there was another collision analyst who was testifying with respect to how the accident happened. And I don't know. So we'll probably get into that testimony a little bit more in a future issue. But I was actually watching another podcast. Yes, I do. Despite what our commenters say down below, why don't you watch this? And why don't you watch that? I do watch them, but we do our own content. All right. We do our own stuff. And I was watching another podcaster this week on this trial, and it was 4 men. It was 4 men talking about all of this testimony, and the host, and they do a good job. I'm not disparaging anyone, and I'm not going to give any names. TIR. Anyhow, he was saying, we couldn't find any women to put on our panel. Well, here you go. We have 2. And I wanted another
They exist.
one, but our friend Forensic was going away for the weekend. So anyhow, so I'm happy that we had 2 women, and I'm sorry I'm here too, but I want to thank you guys. Do you guys have any closing thoughts about this crazy trial?
I think you said it with the crazy trial. It doesn't feel real. When we were listening to the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, that, there was some drama involved in there, but it was a little bit more reasonable. You have 2 actors. This is like, what even is this? High school. These are supposed to be grown adults that are supposed to be enforcing the law. And instead we're, like you said, locker room talk, locker room. I don't know. It's gross.
Well, the prosecution is doing a fabulous job of showing how the mindset is of these officers and troopers and how they view things, which is horrifying to me. It just shows bias all the way around. They're acting on their own biases. And I don't know how anybody can be prosecuted like that and that bias be so missed by the prosecution. In other words, if the prosecution can't see that there is bias and this whole this whole prosecution against Karen Reed is just, even if it were true that she hit him, the bias there is so bad that you can't even determine that. The determination is that they hated everything about her and her attorney.
Yeah, defense attorney Alan Jackson repeatedly made the point that it was only 16 or 17 hours after John O'Keefe was found in the yard in Canton, as they say, that the prosecutors just made up their mind. They didn't even go in the house of Brian Albert, and John O'Keefe was found in the front yard of Brian Albert's house. I never took a class in police investigation, but I'm telling you right now that if you find a body in somebody's front yard, you go in that house and do an event and you start asking questions. And apparently it was only 16, 17 hours after the death and only 3 statements when they just decided it was the girl. It was the girl with a flat butt.
They made a credibility determination just in the first 16 hours. I mean, they basically found that the people in the Alberts house and anybody there was way more credible than the, Karen Reed, which they called her all these disparaging names. So right there, they made a credibility determination, and it's based on their own bias. And why the prosecutor would think this is okay to put on and use resources to do this, I don't know. It's not.
It's a lot of people have said the same thing. A lot of people here in New England have said the same thing that you just said, Southern California attorney Yoli Medina, that why did they even bring this case? And if they brought this case, why did they put Proctor on the stand? Now, that decision is kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, they put him on the stand and that damned him. But if they didn't put him on the stand, that opens him up to the criticism that he was the lead investigator. He was there from day one. So why didn't you put him on the stand? It's almost like they should have put him on an airplane to Belize or some other country that has no reciprocity. So,
right.
So they're stuck in their own bed sheets, and it's not a good situation for the Commonwealth. But these issues keep coming up in the Commonwealth, and it's not a joke. It's awful. It's sad. It's disgusting. It's repetitive. It keeps happening over and over again, that at the very highest levels of government, we just march on and do nothing as though, this is an isolated incident. Well, how many isolated incidents have to occur before they realize that the ship is sinking?
It's a pattern.
It's a pattern. It's really a pattern. And, it's sad that it has to be displayed internationally, nationally, internationally, and it's just, it's an embarrassment. I mean, it's an embarrassment on the scale of the Alex Murdaugh trial. I mean, that was an embarrassment for South Carolina because this scion of the legal profession who was 4th generation, big time lawyer and prosecutor, ended up stealing money from everybody that he knew, and then some. So that was an embarrassment for South Carolina. This is an embarrassment for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and nobody wants to say anything at the top level. The governor only said something when somebody pinned her with a microphone outside of her office, and she tried to, back away from it. But she pointed out herself that she used to be the attorney general, and some of this stuff was happening when she was the attorney general. And if the attorney general and the governor aren't in charge of the state police, who is?
Nobody, apparently.
No, you're right. And it's sad that this had to happen. All right. I think I've rambled on enough. You two guys have any other closing thoughts, or should we bring down the gallows?
It's giving when you are working at kind of like a dead-end retail job, so you only have like a couple of people and they're not really doing the job good, but you don't really have anyone else that you can depend on, and then anybody else new that comes in gets pushed out by the bad eggs. It's just, there's a circular almost, something's going on in there.
Okay, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will continue. We'll stay with this until the end, which we're told is only going to be a couple of more weeks. But As with everything else I hear in Massachusetts, I will believe it when I hear it. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
That's that.
That's that.
And that's that. Wow.
What a case.
Yeah. They said that the jury is supposed to get the case by the end of June, but I don't know. Doesn't give them
I think the prosecution just overdid it. I mean, they're just 20 some days to show this nonsense.
And it's been a part-time trial too. This week there were 4 trial days.
Right, yeah.
Last week there were 3 trial days. The week before that there was only 1 trial day. There was only 1 trial day, and I said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, if I was put onto a jury and I'm taken away from my daily life and my job and everything else, and my routine is disrupted, and they're trying the case on a part-time basis, are they serious?
If I'm the defense, I'm just gonna say the prosecution has made my case.
Yeah.
No, they have their own witnesses. I think they've done a really good job. And, I would say 90% of the prosecution's witnesses, the defense has gotten up and done an incredible job of turning them around and raising reasonable doubt. So that's really all they have to do in their closing argument is just say, here's what this one said, but here's what they said on cross, And so I don't think anything that Proctor said has any credibility at all. And I think that's why they brought all the other state police people in, because I think they know the jury is just going to reject everything and anything that he said.
So you have Higgins destroying his phone.
After he was told not to. I'm sorry, go on.
Yes, Higgins destroying his phone after he was told not to. You have Jen McCabe doing a search at a time that was not 6 o'clock or whatever she says it was.
No.
And then you have the state trooper, lead investigator, calling her all kinds of names, disparaging her, hatred. I mean, imagine her civil rights lawsuit, malice. I mean, all those texts show that.
Especially if she does win, which I put serious money on. I would put.
Well, I'm assuming that's what I'm assuming. If she wins, she would have a civil rights case, I would imagine.
Oh, big time. Big time, I would think.
And she's she's an educated lady. Not that it doesn't matter whether you're a housewife or an educated lady.
No.
Those kinds of comments.
Yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't.
They should have had a woman cross-examine that guy.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, the defense team does have a woman by the name of Attorney Elizabeth Little, and she's taken a lesser role, but she's there every day. I think it would have been great to have her cross.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Proctor the whole time, and I don't want to put myself in his position. I really don't want to put myself in that position. But if I was in his position, I don't know why. How could you sit there and read your texts saying those things? She was this. She was that. She was the other. So
and it's like he's talking about her condition and her, problem with her, bowel, whatever. Well, he's probably having some kind of issue like that right there on the stand.
That's what people were saying in the comment section. I'm watching this on another YouTube channel, and that's what people were saying. They were saying, I bet he's going to have to change his underwear after this.
And his name is Proctor, of all things.
I don't understand how he's gonna go back to life after this, to being out there publicly like this, and to just.
And then if he has kids, like what?
Well, all of that, you're right, but he still has his job. He still has his job. Why can't Maura Healey grow a set other than for obvious reasons and fire the guy and say he's no longer a member of the Mass State Police? And I know the answer to that. There's a very strong union in Massachusetts, and their attorney actually has been at some of these hearings. But anyhow, so I have a serious question. Obviously, I only beeped out one of the C words, and I'm going to beep out all the rest of them because YouTube's not going to let us say the C word. But what about some of those other words like the we can't say on here, can we?
I would say bleep it out.
Yeah, YouTube,
just like any
retard.
harsh words. YouTube.
And what are the other words?
Yeah.
There's other. What else am I going to have to bleep out?
Ass can stay.
Yeah.
Ass
Wait,
can
ass?
stay.
Am I going to have to bleep out
I
ass?
don't think so.
No.
I don't. It's like they care about like the density of swear words. So if it's like an hour-long video and like you throw a couple F-bombs, if it's like not too close, but I would say like every swear word, like if YouTube transcribes that, like you can see it, like we'll erase it in the closed captions. So
You know what I didn't put in here? There were two that I didn't put in here. And when they were starting to look at her, they said, she's f***ed. So I didn't use that. And there was another one that I didn't use when he was talking about how she, had the issue. He said, what kind of a guy would want to go out with a girl that shits her pants? So I didn't use that. But if I had, I would have to bleep that word.
yeah.
God, and the jury heard all this. It's like,
Yeah. Did you ever hear of, I'm embarrassed to even ask this. Did you ever even hear of a balloon knot in that context? I didn't.
I don't know. I wouldn't have known what that meant.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of it?
Never heard of that.
Do you know
in
what it
my
means?
life. Oh, I'm assuming it's related to the butt, but
I looked
I
it
don't know.
up.
What is it? I still don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's related.
It's a butt.
it's like
a balloon
the
knot
tie.
is your butt.
A balloon knot.
Because I looked it up and it came up in the slang dictionary because a balloon knot looks like your butt.
Like when you tie
a
it,
balloon knot. The knot of a balloon. Get it? The knot of the balloon.
Is that disgusting?
That is just.
I've never. I mean, I did work on a loading dock. I worked for a year and a half after high school. I worked on a loading dock, loading and unloading tractor trailers, so I could use the F word 90 times in a sentence. And I'm very profane, as Lainey can tell you, when I'm off camera. But I've never heard that.
I've never heard it either. Balloon
That's
knot. I thought it was
degenerate
some kind of a procedure where they put like a balloon inside or something, and they.
Who even talks like that? I've never heard that. And yes, I go to the gym and go to the locker room. I've never heard guys
Hey,
talk.
cover your balloon knot.
Yoli, you have a good point where like my thought was that was like some degenerate stuff, and then you like mentioned the balloon aspect of it. I wonder if he's just into some really, really weird corners of the internet, like some deviant behavior.
I don't know.